Welcome back, guys. This is Val from Dreamlight. In today's episode 9 of our Master the Art of DAZ photo blends, we're gonna take things one step further and move into Photoshop. Specifically, it's called generative AI feature. So what I mean with that, here we have a DAZ render, which is using one of my backgrounds, which you can find in my store, dreamlight3dstore.com. There is plenty of cool photo and video backgrounds from $199 and up. And the thing is, once you are done with your render and bring it into Photoshop, you can further tweak things in very interesting ways. So we're going to be using here up in the left corner the rectangular marquee tool, and we're going to select an area over here. Let's do here normal, not a fixed ratio, something like that. And I'm gonna right click and choose generative fill. Now I wanna enter white luxury yacht and click on generate. This is gonna create 3 variations that are gonna end up as layers. So if you approve them, you can, if you click here on layers, you see it's a layer, right? So you can click here and remove it, or you can have it on and just use flatten image to finalize your image. Now you go back to properties, you have 3 in this case different versions of this. This is number 1, looks pretty cool, right? Then we have this one, looks even cooler, love this. And then you have number 3 over here. That one is also pretty cool, but there's something odd about these details here. Like any AI tool out there, it will in some cases generate pretty good, decent results. In some cases, it will destroy your image. And in some cases, it will just not work out at all. So I kind of like this one here. Looks pretty cool, right? So I'm gonna go ahead here and choose flatten image. Now, when I go here and select something on this end and choose generative fill, let's add a distant island with palm trees. All right, and let's see if that works. Like I said, AI tools are a little bit tricky. They will add stuff and sometimes it will work out wonders, sometimes it will not. In this case, it kind of added a distant island. We also got 3 ships, and we got some additional stuff in the background, like a distant hazy almost cloud pattern or something. Bad weather, right? Kind of works. Let's see the other 2. This one looks pretty cool as well. There is no island per se, more like a mountain range. And this one here looks like a weird stuff, happening from the sky, right? So I kind of like this one best, but let's try another pass. We can just click on generate to create new variations here. So this one was pretty okay-ish. It's live, right? Now, here is an interesting one. Kind of like this one. Looks pretty cool, I think. Let's compare to this one. Yeah, this one is better, right? Cool. So let's add that. Perfect. Now, another thing you can, of course, do in an image like this is to select portions of the sky and say, oops, like that. And add seagulls in the sky. Let's also add distant seagulls in the sky. I hope I'm writing that correctly so it's not a major typo and I end up having something totally different. That happens. All right, let me just pause while waiting. Well, they are there, but somehow the AI missed the request of distance. Hello, they are not distant. Well, there's something, these are pretty cool. These look cool as well. I like these best, but lighting doesn't really match. Let's generate one more pass, see what happens. Regarding the scale, we can fix that, right? They should be distant, but they are kind of not distant. So these work best as far as sunshine goes, right? And lighting. So I'm gonna add that, flatten. Now that have them here, what we can do is simply, use select this, use Control C, Control V to paste a new instance of it, and then simply scale it down so it matches our render, like so, right? And the one here we can actually remove, and removing stuff is Shift F5. Sorry, wrong layer. Shift F5. Content aware color adoption. Click on OK. That removes that seagull. We can bring back this one and simply work our way around, those extra details here. That would be just adding, for instance, a mask, selecting black, using this one here, and just fade it away. Another way would be to select this seagull as an object. It's also a possibility. I'll show you that as well. So that would be just selecting. I can also switch to a smaller brush, selecting that like that. All right. The larger one here on the right side is kind of cool though, right? But what you also can do is you can click on object here, object selection tool, right? Click on an object and oops, wrong layer again. There we go. And that works at times it doesn't. And once selected, you can just copy and paste that and have it as a different layer. And then you can move that around and place it anywhere you like, right? So there's also another way of tweaking and adjusting things. There's always, like I say, there's always a gazillion ways of doing the same thing. You gotta choose what works for you. That bird is kind of cool, right? So the things you can do with these, at times they kind of appear to be maybe too sharp or too bright or whatever, right? And we have this one over here, that small one. What we can do with that is one way of getting things to look further away from the camera is by lowering the opacity. So they kind of disappear into the sky and have like a haze effect. If you look at the distant, items here, they're kind of like more hazy than the stuff here in the foreground, right? So that's one way of adjusting that. I don't think we need to adjust it so much though, because it's kind of dark and it already feels like it's hazy. What we can do with that is, select it and add blur. You can add motion blur to items so they appear like they are flying, right? That's one way of doing it. And then we can have this larger one over here. You can select that as well. You can copy and paste that on a different layer if you like to. Then we can blur that as well, use motion blur. And this one is larger, so we can add more. So it really feels like it's, flying here. So you can play with an image using, Photoshop's AI tools, which are pretty cool, but they are also pretty, basic. They will not, it's not a magic, one button. As you can see, it generates some stuff, it breaks some stuff, right? And that's the nature. And you can ask it for more advanced stuff. You can click on, for instance, the girls here and say, here, select them and use, generative fill and say, create long blonde hair on both girls. That may or may not backfire. Always when you use a prompt, there is always going to be some guessing work. Well, that kind of generates some hair, but also kind of totally destroys the look of our ladies' faces, right? But you get the idea. You can play with stuff. That one looks also really odd and weird and really broken. And now she also has a white, arm and hand. It's kind of like a little bit funky, right? Almost scary. All right. So I would say this tool is great for adding, background elements or changing small portions, small details, right? I mean, you can ask it to change the color of the bikini, change bikini to red, and it will do that. But again, oops, touchy, it doesn't like that kind of prompt I used. So let's use something else. We can use a more generic stuff. Recolor to red. There we go. You gotta be careful what words you use, specifically when using, Adobe Generative AI. But you can see it does the job. Does it do it perfectly? No, it's not, right? Again, it breaks stuff, adds stuff, and you gotta select whatever that works. Salvage what you salvage can, right? And we can ask it to add here, add broken bottle of wine and liquid on the deck. Let's see how that works. I think it's called teak. No, I can't recall the name of it. That kind of wooden deck floor on a boat, right? So see that looks pretty cool. Maybe too large, right? It's kind of okay. I suggest you use this for background elements. It's fully, capable of creating background elements. For your main elements, maybe use other tools such as DAZ to get what you want, and use ready-to-use backgrounds that have most of the stuff intact. All right, so guys, don't forget to check out my store, dreamlike3dstore.com, for more cool backgrounds and video backgrounds. And if you want to learn more about taking your Dash Studio renders and create full-blown animations using AI tools, check out our AI art club as well, dreamlike3dstore.com. Right guys, thanks so much for watching. See you next time.